My name is Lisa Carson, and I am the lead family coordinator for the Family Hub project. And I work with Mission Possible. I have been a family support partner with Mission Possible for the last 6 years. And with this project, we are just looking to expand family voice in Colorado and support family and caregivers. I'm going to ask the Family Hub team to introduce themselves as well, because we are working as a group in this project. So I'm going to start with Chris Meyer.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Meyer. I go by she, her, hers. I work at the Office of Behavioral Health, soon to be the Behavioral Health Administration. Sorry, my boys are homesick today. And I am the project director of COAC, which is a system of care grant funded by SAMHSA, and really supporting family voice in Colorado. So I'm honored to be here today and really looking forward to learning more from each of you.
Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry Anderson, and I'm working as a consultant contractor on this project with Lisa for the Family Hub. And just trying to support and move this effort forward. And I'm really happy to be here, and let me know if you have any questions for me. Thank you.
Palmer.
Morning, everybody. I'm Palmer Johnson, and I am the director of Mission Possible. So I work with Lisa, and we've been providing wraparound in here in this area, Colorado Springs, Teller County, El Paso County, for about 12 years, and family support partners for about 10 of those years. So I'm very excited to be here, and very excited to be part of this effort to really enhance and support family and caregiver voice.
Denise.
There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Denise McHugh. I'm with Spark Community Foundation and work with Lisa and Palmer and Terry and Chris, and also with the Youth Hub side. Mainly my role is what I kind of call the glue, just being the support to both the Family Hub as well as the Youth Hub.
And I believe that's everyone that's on today. So you've been asked to introduce yourself in chat. Please provide your name. Are you here as a family or caregiver, or as peer support, or in a different role? Please include your area that you are from and how you came to be at this meeting, if you got a direct invite or if somebody passed along the invitation. And I know quite a few people have already done that. But one other thing, could you please make sure to include your email address so that we can send follow-up information? And then what do you hope to get out of this meeting? So some of the meeting goals that we're going to talk about today are exploring the Family Hub idea, the purpose, the governance structure, the networks and roles of those networks, and some next steps. We will be using Menti to get input during the meeting, but feel free to ask any questions or make any suggestions during this meeting. You can either raise your hand or use chat. We want this to be an open process. So why we feel family voice matters. Family engagement is the identification of problems, and the development of solutions may be the only thing that can drive improvements in our systems and services. We need a system for families and youth to communicate the challenges and barriers that they face and drive change. We need to acknowledge the impacts of fundamental system issues on the lives of children, families, and communities. This meeting is about family and caregiver voice. So if you are here as a peer support, we ask that you come to this meeting from your lived experience. So with this meeting, we sent out a survey, and we have gotten, this number has changed since we put this slide together. I think we have 25 responses now, and it represents 16 counties across the state, 9 from rural counties and 14 from the Front Range counties. We got quite a bit of information regarding experiences in behavioral health systems across the state. And this is just a sample of some of the information.
Lisa,
Yes.
this is Terry. So we've gotten a few people that had trouble with the link, and they have just been able to enter now. So I don't know if we need to repeat anything or just kind of as far as the interpretation or anything like that. I don't know.
What, did they just now get in?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome to those who came in. At the bottom, you will see a world icon. Click on that and select the language that you would like to hear the meeting in, whether it be English or Spanish. Okay. And then also, don't feel like you've missed much. We will send out the recordings after this meeting as well. Okay. So some of the things that we have heard that families and caregivers need across the state is easier access to quality services, appointments, qualifying insurance, requirements to find something diagnosable to serve and bill. That was a struggle with some people. We heard that families need someone to support them to work through the process and find services they need that work for them. Support groups for parents. And other options. We heard that there's a need for better transitions from home to to home from hospitals when they need mental health services. More treatment options for youth at all levels of need, and treatment that's tailored to them and their needs rather than what's available through funding. More supports, activities, and services for youth, and transitional services for children aging out of the systems. And really just more support of getting youth connected with the community. We also heard that there is a need to expand funding to cover gaps in Medicaid and insurance. There's a need for increased providers for behavioral health, such as school social workers, pediatric psychiatrists, trauma-informed professionals, and there is a need around sexual assault services. We need to pay attention to the basic needs of a family to support children, such as affordable housing, childcare, transportation, and other things that impact a family's ability to care for their children. One of the responses from the survey that we pulled out is that childcare is a priority for children. This particular individual said that their current before and aftercare program is good for them. They are a part of a good community and it's safe and consistent. But there's a need to support maintaining funds for them to continue when the parent has to go to work. So I'm going to stop sharing right now and really open it up to what are everybody's thoughts around these needs, and is there additional input that people would like to provide that wasn't asked on the survey?
How about language? How about people not accessing or having the ability to utilize places like, for example, we have interpreters today in English, Spanish, and sign language. And do you think that the language creates barriers for people?
Yes, especially in, certain communities, if there's not access to those services in a family's preferred language, that's definitely something we need to add to the list. And I wasn't able to see who made that comment. Could you share what area of the state you're in?
It was Lori Gutierrez, and I'm in Pagosa Springs, Colorado.
Thank you.
Another need connected to language that we've heard is qualified interpreters being available across the state, and organizations being able to tap into those resources to be able to provide services in a family's preferred language. So we've heard that need as well. And a lot of times organizations, because there is no access to qualified interpreters, will just use bilingual team members. And so they're either trying to multitask to provide services in their role and be an interpreter, which oftentimes prevents the family from getting the highest quality service.
I think this is Terry Anderson. The general information from the survey, the responses we got, 9 from rural counties, 14 from Front Range. I think that's really telling. As Chris said, a lot of access to services that are needed aren't available everywhere, and that clearly showed up in that information. So trying to figure out how we make access more equitable for people.
Thank you for that input. Is there any other big needs that are not listed in this that we're missing?
think services for like visually impaired as well. I've worked with a family where mom was visually impaired, and she had stated that a lot of times professionals would just like guide her to where she needed to sign, and she would sign, but nobody would really explain the documents that she was signing.
Thank you for that input. Okay.
So real quick, just in chat, I just want to echo Lisa Thomas. So that's in the Arkansas Valley against Vaca, Cheyenne, Kiowa, Prowers. I want to echo the sentiment that we are not serving families appropriately when we are not serving them in their primary language with certified interpreters. She also said it's impossible to reshare the list of needs with them in chat. Oh, sorry.
And there will be an opportunity to continue to provide input. This is just the beginning of information gathering and sharing.
I think it's important to recognize too that we've been collecting information from the community for a long time. And all of these things are probably not new to the people that are in this meeting today. And part of the information we're going to be sharing is some of that other input and information that has been collected, and then really to look at it to figure out how we begin to address these issues that we know have been with us for a very long time.
Thank you, Terry. So to kind of follow up some other input from families and caregivers, families and youth need a safe place to share information about what's working and what is not, to learn about resources and get support from each other. We need to be able to let families and youth identify the challenges and barriers that they face in getting what they need. Families and youth should be empowered in their own service planning and oversight. We need family and youth participation in system and service design and improvement. We need a system for families and youth to communicate the challenges and barriers they face to drive positive change in the state. And we need to acknowledge the impacts of fundamental system issues of service access and quality on people's lives. So it's a good time for Family Voice in Colorado. Family and youth input is being acknowledged as important at the system and individual service planning level. There's been several family advisory groups and councils that are being added to government planning and systems, and encouraged for community coalitions and service providers. But we still have a lot of work to do. Families and youth aren't always seen as the expert, even when included in the planning and decision-making at the system or individual service level. Some councils and groups don't encourage genuine input from families and youth, particularly when that input is critical. And we have, as Terry mentioned, identified these problems over and over again. And we're starting to see some changes, but like I said, there's a lot of work to be done. So we're going to open up Menti. If you could go to www.menti.com And the code word the code is 7077-5081. And we're asking, what is your experience with Family and Youth Voice? Do you feel heard? Has your experience been positive, negative, or please include specific experiences that you've had?
So I just put the link to the Menti in the chat, so if that's helpful.
Lisa, we may need to go to the actual Menti and share that screen because I don't believe they're going to come up in the slide deck.
The website, it's the link is in the chat. Does that work? Or oh, I know what you're saying. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Get me. No, I can't. See what? That's slime. No. What? What? It's putty.
It is showing, Chris. The presentation slide deck is in Menti. So I think it'll work.
So I'm not seeing the presentation right now, Lisa.
I know. I'm working on it.
Sorry.
Okay. Can everybody see those responses? Okay.
All right, so while folks are typing, here we have a few other ones that are coming in. So with the question, what is your experience and do you feel heard? So the first one I'm reading, it's sort of like no one is there, or that like there is no one to hear your voice when you can't even find a provider. Where do you even turn to when you feel like you don't even know where to turn to? Another response is I have worked with families since 1973, so a lot of experience there. I also have lived experience as a foster parent, as an adoptive parent. Working as a family advocate in Denver, feel like here by my gals and some judicial people, however, I don't feel heard by the large agencies and have a time constraint such as Human Services and Probation. Heavy emphasis on the importance of lived experience and identifying barriers and gaps, but not when it comes to action. It's often difficult for families to find the services and supports they need. Often hear from a parent that no one cares. It's really hard. Parents not always feeling heard when they say that something is wrong with their youth, that they're not treated like the experts in their or of their children. I feel like I've not been heard. We have meetings where I and a family have tried to advocate for their child's needs in behavioral and mental health meetings and have been told by providers that they cannot accommodate their needs. Well, thank you, people, for the responses so far. We're interested if other people would like to share. It is anonymous. But really, I think the theme here is that people are not feeling heard or know, you feel like you don't know where to go. If people are interested in coming off mute to share an experience. Hold on a second. Then another comment of families don't understand behavioral and mental health issues, therefore they don't seek help or know how to support their child. Stephanie, you want to come off mute?
Yeah, I can just share real quick. Something that I've been seeing lately is that a lot of parents want to do the preventative type of work, but they're not being heard. And when they say this behavior is worrisome, either the school system or the mental health system, wherever they're trying to get help from, they're just kind of being brushed off like, oh, it's normal teenager thing or whatever it may be. And so I work with high fidelity wraparound, which is the more intensive cases, but it's like if we could just get the parents to be heard before it gets to that point, we can, lower services in things like high fidelity wraparound or like more intensive services. I think the goal would be to not let the kids get to that point if they don't need to, if we could do some preventative work.
Thank you, Stephanie. And then I also want to provide people the option, if you're struggling to use Menti, please write your feedback in the chat. That would work as well. Does anybody else want to share experiences?
So we have one in chat from our FAST coordinator. And so I believe that is in Gunnison. I agree with Stephanie. What Stephanie is expressing, I've been trying to shift the community's focus on referring families the moment they say they need help, and not until it gets so bad that they need that system involvement, which I feel like is a message that is often either communicated to families, that there are no resources until you are involved in the system. And that, in my belief, needs to change.
Agreed. Okay. So the Family and Youth Hub, and don't feel like if something comes up at a later date, please feel free to share. There will be, like I said, this is just the beginning, and there will be other opportunities to share your stories. And we want to hear everybody's experiences. So the Family and Youth Hub, why are they different and how are they connected? Today, we're really going to be focused on the family side. However, there will be more information about opportunities with the Youth Hub, and we will share those in follow-up emails. So youth need to be empowered on their own to speak in a genuine voice without adult pressure. Families need to feel free to explore issues specific to their caregiving roles. Family experience cannot be understood without youth voice, and youth experience cannot be understood without family voice. Learning and problem solving are dependent on cross communications.
Hey, Lisa, yeah, this is what's been bothering me a lot is this part, because the kid's voice is hardly ever heard. It's what the family, the parents going to say, and that's what's going to happen. So I agree with this. The kids really got to get their input on and feel like they're not being forced to do this stuff, because then it closes the door and they won't do it.
Absolutely, Lillian. There are definitely opportunities for youth voice in Colorado right now. And I can send out connection emails after this meeting of ways that youth can get engaged and share their voice. I feel like you're right. It's very important that youth have a platform to be able to share how, services are affecting them. They're the ones that are having to participate in a lot of these things.
I think one of the things that is important too is then how do we bring it all back together to help parents and caregivers understand the youth perspective and helping youth understand the parent perspective. So I think part of the Family Hub concept is that we do have youth voice within the Family Hub, and that it helps to shape and drive the direction.
And in chat, I'm just reading, Lisa Thomas is saying that a barrier that she's run into on several occasions for both youth and adults or parents is the willingness to re-engage with mental health services if there has been a past negative experience in the past. So the lack of the willingness to access the service or try again. I've also seen that barrier. And especially with the limited amount of resources or services that are available in certain communities, if we can't find a way to address the barrier or the negative experience and try and bridge that gap, then we quickly run out of options. Thank you, Lisa. Okay. So we're gonna go back to Minty, and please feel free to put your answers in chat if you're not able to get on Minty. But what do youth need and what do families need to encourage the voice, their voice? And the link again is in the chat. And while you guys are answering that question, there is also another chat that you believe that there is a legitimate fear for both families and youth to reach out. Fear of what authorities may do or not do, fear of judgment, and fear of any repercussions from reaching out for support.
All right, so we have some responses coming in. So I see a safe place to share their voices, confidence, mostly in the professionals who are helping them find their voice, to feel safe and know that what they are saying will not be used against them. I think it comes down to showing them that they will be heard. Actions speak louder than words. Respect, safe place, active listening, and active advocacy. Another response is for them to know they're actually going to be heard and that they're not going to be judged or that their services will be affected by them for speaking their mind. Taking the time to listen and build a relationship. Authenticity right there. To really understand that their voice will be heard and can influence change. And I think another connection is some people commented before, and especially because some of these opportunities have happened before, the action to work together and not just to have another activity of collecting input, but really creating a plan to look at what we can do together to make some of those improvements. All right, another is youth need to feel comfortable talking. Youth also don't want to see that they are being, youth also want to see that they are being heard and respected. I believe we all share that. Culturally relevant support, peer support from those who have become successful, and dignity. Trust the process will help and not do harm. Really great responses. If anybody wants to come off chat to share, off chat, sorry, off mute or use chat to share.
Does anybody feel like there is something specific that is needed for either side, the family or youth, that's not on this list? No? Okay.
Well, that's another good one. As far as youth and young adults being heard instead of family members or professionals writing them off as just kids. Families being heard and taken seriously when discussing behaviors they see at home. If their child isn't displaying said behavior while at a provider. And so some of the things that, like in summary, really moving away from maybe a tokenized way of working with family members, caregivers, and youth and young adults, a space that has mutual respect, safety, even an opportunity to build that confidence and those skills to utilize voice, especially when working with other professionals. And the other thing that rises is really the opportunity to partner and work together. Sorry, I was trying to come up with another word, but it escaped me.
Okay. So we're gonna dive into the Family Hub idea. The Family Hub will be an independent, family-governed collective to support diverse family voice throughout the state. We hope that it'll be a system to bring diverse voices forward in an open and equitable way. To be able to collect and organize voice for a clear picture of the family and youth experience, and to drive information-based decision-making and action. A system to improve practice and ensure accountability to family voice in quality improvement. We want to use the information from families to drive decision-making at all levels: funding, policy, the process, and individual service delivery. And to be able to track and support accountability and constant improvement, and consistently share information with the community. As the Family Hub networks and governance come together, these ideas will be expanded and shaped by the members. So this is a diagram of the networks. Again, we look to have the hub for support, learning, combined voice, information gathering, and sharing. So we're looking to build 3 different networks: family and caregiver network, peer workforce, or family support partners would fall into the peer workforce, and then family organizations and groups. We want to create a space for shared learning and for exploring issues most important to families and children with behavioral service needs, to create a system for communication and information sharing to improve systems of care, to create a system for evaluation, accountability, and ongoing impact, and to encourage diverse voices and learn from the unique perspective of each voice and network. Does anybody have any questions about the networks? And this is kind of the bigger picture. On the left-hand side, what are the networks? So the networks could be network meetings, events, and development opportunities, website, newsletter, email, information sharing, network information gathering and reporting for system of care reform and continuous quality improvement. So there's going to be several ways for people to be involved. And we're looking to create an implementation advisory group. So the implementation advisory group will be, and I'll get into that in the next slide, I'm sorry. But we really want to leverage the collective impact for service and system improvement. And over here on the right side is some of the impacts of what this advisory group will have. So they'll guide governance and advisory groups, serve as a resource to community and state services and systems, and drive a quality improvement process. So this is kind of just the bigger diagram. So the implementation advisory group will guide the Family Hub to develop a sustainable organizational structure to promote collective leadership and accountability to the values and principles of System of Care in Colorado. In alignment with System of Care, the Implementation Advisory Group will consist of families with lived experience, at least 60%, youth with lived experience, peer workforce representatives, and family-run organization representatives. They will support the development of collective goals and strategies, support the development of a formal family majority governance system for guiding and sustaining the Family Hub by the end of this project. The Implementation Advisory Group will support the developments of the networks, support the development of communication and continuous quality improvement processes, and support the identification of shared measures and participate in evaluation of efforts and impacts. So the hope is that this will consist of 4 to 5 families with lived experience, 1 to 2 youth representatives, 1 to 2 family-run organizations, and 1 to 2 peer workforce representatives. The plan is to meet monthly for about an hour to an hour and a half each month to really guide the development of the Family Hub. Terry, do you have anything to add on the advisory group and networks?
Sure. So the concept is really that we create a collective model so that we're getting information from all of these different perspectives and combining it to impact and take action. So the advisory group in the beginning will be the Implementation Advisory Group, as Lisa said. And what we're really looking for is a group that can come together and really help develop all the bits and pieces of the Family Hub that are needed to get it going. So how these networks will work, what the meetings will be like, how we will be communicating, how we will determine what is most important to the community and the different networks as far as issues. So we heard a lot today about issues of not being heard as family members, of access to information, being limited for those that need language or other kinds of accommodations. And also the fact that we can't find services in certain areas, or that care providers are kind of inconsistent, they come and go. So there are a number of issues, way more than we could list in our meeting today. So how are we going to approach learning about those things? What is the real family experience? Not what we think it is, but what is it really from the voices of families, so that we can combine this information and use it to leverage real change. So we know these are issues. We know there are probably lots of system reasons that we haven't solved a lot of these issues, but how do we really put some family voice power behind driving change at this point? We need to do that to move things forward. So the Implementation Advisory Group and the networks are 2 different ways to be involved. One of the things we really want to do is to identify those family members and other parties that are interested in being part of this Implementation Advisory Group for about a year to help build this, and then go into a more sustainable, longer-term governance model So that's part of what we're asking today, is for you to think about what your involvement in this could be. It doesn't have to be as a member of an advisory group, doesn't have to be a member of this first advisory group. It could be being involved in the networks, making sure that you are sharing your voice and participating so that we can start to move this forward. If you are interested in being part of the advisory group, we would love to hear about that. Anything else, Lisa?
No, thank you. And so that leads us to our last Minty. And with this one, it is, how do you see yourself being involved in this project? What I don't want to lose is who is responding, so that we can match that information to who is putting it into Minty. And so that we can follow up with more information. So I would like for this one to not be anonymous. So if you could put who you are when you respond, that would be great, just so we can make sure that we're not missing out on including people. And then also feel free to use chat or come off of mute with any questions or comments that you might have on getting involved. And then Terry has also included the link again in chat.
Thanks for getting us started, Margie. And if folks aren't sure at this point, that's okay. We'd like to hear that too.
So there is an implementation advisory group interest form that will be included in the follow-up email, just to kind of get some interest on who would like to be involved in that as well. Thank you, Stephanie.
Great. So thanks for folks jumping in. And Stephanie, I mean, to your point, to continue to advocate for families as in your role as a family support partner through High Fidelity Wraparound. I also see an opportunity, you know, to as a connector. And so maybe you don't have capacity potentially. I'm not saying this specifically for you, but Stephanie, but in a scenario, you may not have capacity, but through your work as a advocate for families, being able to connect families with this information, share the opportunities, you know, I mean, I hate to use the word to recruit, but whether there are people in your personal life or even connected to the work that you do professionally, it's an opportunity for really people to get involved, because we all are impacted by behavioral health.
Yeah, and I just want to comment on, Lisa, please feel free to share with families that you may be connected with or that you work with. This is not private information, so please share away.
Great. And Terry Cisneros definitely want to be involved, but I'm not exactly sure how, or sure exactly how yet, sorry. And I'm not able to commit too much right now. I want to be able to share insights when applicable. 1 year seems like a long commitment for families already going through a lot. Will there be an incentive for this program? That is a great question. And the answer is yes. We also asked in the survey, which we'll share again after the meeting. So if you didn't have an opportunity and want to be able to see that or share with others, it's still open. But asking if you do need compensation if you are not compensated by an organization, for example. So that's not something that we want to shy away from and want to be able to provide an equal opportunity to everyone. Okay, so we also see a continue to get more community resources and collaborate with community partners. At the very least, I would like to continue to be a part of the group at large. Quite possibly, I would be interested in serving in an active role. So thank you for that. Dre, being a part of the network to help family and youth voice to the advisor, or to get family and youth voice to the advisory group. Can you scroll down? I'm interested in being involved, especially if it benefits my community. Lori, thank you. Another response, advocating for family voice locally and directly, our FSP and any families that would like to be involved in the advisory group. Dawn in Gunnison.
And Lisa Thomas, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just don't want to rely on my typing skills. Just kind of thinking about that family role, do you guys have do you have it already in mind about the time commitment for families? Just thinking about the family I have in mind, but you know, they have their own work as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So Lisa, I'm happy to speak to that. We are planning on having a meeting on March 9th for those that are interested. And part of that will be talking about both the kind of stipends and other things that might be involved, and also what time commitments are. I think it's important that this group sets up its own meeting time and schedule, because we want to be clear that lots of people have lots of commitments and we want to make it as easy to participate as possible. So for the advisory group, all of those things we'll be digging into at our next meeting on March 9th, and hoping that people that are interested but still aren't sure how they can commit or not could come to that. The networks are the other way to participate. And as you saw in that slide, you know, there are multiple ways. You could attend a meeting, you could watch the recording of the meeting, you could just stay in the distribution link so that you're getting email and information. Part of this project is to set up kind of a center of communication and information, so websites that people can access for resources and input. So we're really wanting this to be a broad way to be involved, and to make it as easy as possible. And for people that have to step in away and you know, don't have a lot of time to commit to something, we want them also to be able to participate and share their voice. So all of that is what we will be designing and developing with this oversight group, or this implementation group. So that's one of the reasons pulling this group together now is so important, so that we can start to really give this some structure, and then also to reach out and get information from the larger community about what they need. So we're hoping that if you even have a mild interest, that you will let us know and come with your questions. And again, the time commitment and the scheduling and all of that is going to be devised by this group. So it's not something that's being dictated by us. So Lisa, I think that was probably roundabout, but did it answer your question?
I hope so.
She gave you a thumbs up. You were looking
Okay.
the other way.
Oh, she did. Okay. I can't see everybody. Okay. Thanks, Lisa.
And that kind of goes into the next steps. So those that have indicated interest, there will be an interest form for the advisory group that I will send out. As well as follow-up information on meetings and opportunities that come up there's a lot that's coming up in the near future. And so our commitment is to just make sure that that information continues to get out to everybody. I will put and I believe my email was on the flyer that got you into this meeting, but I will again put it in the chat. And feel free to reach out if there's questions or comments or suggestions of how to move forward. And then I think we have about, 10 more minutes. So if there's any further questions or comments, please feel free to either put them in chat or come off mute, and I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I'd love to hear people's thoughts and what kind of questions you might have about this at this point. So if you have any, please share.
I have a question. How is this group running either in collaboration with or separately than our county IOGs?
Okay. So we want there to be coordination between all of the different kind of family and collective groups out there. So we are not, what the Family Hub isn't is it's not replacing any organizations or any ongoing efforts. It's really more of an effort to bring that voice together. That's why it's important that we have the family organization representative network, and that we're hearing what kind of concerns and what kinds of efforts and things are going on in those areas. So the CMP, for example, you're identifying all kinds of issues that are going to be, super aligned with what we're talking about here. So it's really kind of creating a joint voice more than it is trying to duplicate any kind of work. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really, really important point, because this really, in this collective impact kind of approach, it really is to bring together everybody that's working in this for information sharing and as a resource, not to take away from anybody's work, not to replace any work, but to really provide a resource that is pulling all of that information together for everyone to be able to use.
Thanks, Terry, and great question. And so the other piece is this is an opportunity to create a space for caregivers impacted around behavioral health. And so as system of care, this is not like your families or our families, but all of our families that we support, and being able to provide a unified and centralized place for all, whether those are the collaborative management, IOG, family representatives. We have a few team members or a few folks on the call that are really well connected with collaborative management and the Family Voice and Choice Committee, Margie Grimsley with the Federation of Families and Children's Mental Health, myself. And so we really see this as an opportunity to ensure that there's equal opportunity of support, training, education for caregivers, the workforce, and the different networks, and really being able to honor the needs of each of those groups. And then, as people said before, take some action. It's an exciting time in Colorado in the behavioral health space with the behavioral health reform and behavioral health reform and the creation of the Behavioral Health Administration. And so there's a great opportunity to continue to have family and youth voice, and really moving into an opportunity of more partnership. And I say like co-designing and developing the services and supports and caregiver interventions that are needed and offered throughout the state.
Thank you, Chris. I think that was really well put. And I think we should acknowledge that COACT and the state has been working hard to try and figure out how we can incorporate family voice in a more meaningful way in the development design of services and systems. And I'm super appreciative of that. And it's a really good time for us to try to pull together and institutionalize family voice in all of our efforts. And so that's what we're really trying to do and figure out how to do that. I guess that's it. Any other thoughts?
Yes, I said thanks, Terry, and Andrea has her hand up.
I was gonna ask, I got handed the flyer from a partner, and I was wondering if we could start a new email chain so we don't get lost and we could stay up to date on everything that's going on.
Absolutely. Just include your email address in the chat and I will make sure to add you to the distribution list.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. And as we move forward, I think, there will be opportunities to sign up in different ways. And so we absolutely don't want to lose anybody. Thank you for that.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Chris. So one of the things that we're talking about with these networks are, the peer workforce network. And there is already, for family support partners, some organization of that network already in place. And so those of you that are family support partners have probably been engaged in some meetings and things. And so more information will be coming out because we want that support for support partners to continue. And we also want to open up to other peer workforce in our community. One of the things we'd like to see is our workforce expand. And so those are some of the ideas that we're looking at. So Chris, is there anything else you want to say about that?
Yes, sorry, finding the mute button. So we can, there's a few opportunities as we continue to support the wraparound workforce facilitators and family support partners, as well as connecting with other advocate roles. As we have our system of care grant called COACT Colorado, we bring those funded team members together across the various grants, and that's definitely an open opportunity as we meet quarterly to support that specific workforce. When we look more broadly at family or community navigators, promotoras, and the various other either formal or informal advocates out, or I would say probably formal, whether they are paid or unpaid, being able to understand the needs of the broader peer support workforce. We're also creating some space and state partnership with the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment to really understand various youth opportunities beyond sharing voice, and how young people can get involved in various behavioral health workforce career pathways.
It's exciting.
And that's a space in Colorado. There's been a lot of discussion of peer supports. And so as we have adult peers, family peers, and youth and young adult peers to support various people in Colorado, and continuing to do the work to validate and compensate these different and emerging workforces.
Thank you, Chris. Well, that is all that we have for today. I really appreciate everybody taking their time out this morning and coming to this meeting. There will be, like I said, some follow-up information coming out and invites to meetings that might be coming up. And to Andrea's point, I will create a new email list of the people that attended this meeting to make sure that nobody is lost.
So if you haven't provided your email yet, please do so that we can include you and get more information out about how to get involved in the next steps.
And additionally, just to piggyback on that, if you have anybody that you are thinking about within your own personal or professional network that may be a great fit and would love to be, my young one asked me if I'm done yet, interested in maybe learning more as we are all serve as a connector role, being able to just consider other folks that could be connected or would like to be informed if they want to explore more about getting connected. Just thank everybody for their time and space today.
Families.
Yeah, you can.
I need you guys out of here. So anyway, Lisa, is there anything else that we want to wrap up with?
No, I think that's it. I just really appreciate everybody taking time to be here. And thank you for your interest. All right. I hope everybody has a good day and stay warm out there.